What's up, Blazies? It's Casey Ariel, founder of Blaze Group and your host of Blaze Group Radio. I will be talking about the intersections of Black womanhood, entrepreneurship, news on the culture, and healing as we climb. I launched Blaze Group after spending a decade in corporate America structuring multi-billion-dollar loans for large tech firms, but never once working on a deal team with another Black woman. I left to take world-class knowledge to the streets. Blaze means building leaders and accepting zero excuses, and we go beyond the bare minimum. More than solutions, we create lifelines that help Black women become as limitless as they feel. Snuggle up to this episode. May it feel as safe and nourishing as Big Mama's house did. What's up, Blazies? It is Friday, February 23rd. I hope that you have eaten today, that you've been drinking your water, that you are being very intentional, not only about loving yourself, but allowing yourself to be loved. That is the beautiful power of collectivism over individualism. Realizing that this play around self-care is not about all of the things that we can do alone and feeling horrible about the things we can't fit into our schedules, but healing to the place where we realize we cannot do it without being cared for. And so I hope you're making time for extra phone calls this weekend and time to respond to more text messages where folks are checking up on you, and time to be heard and affirmed, rocked and caressed. Personally, I have been experiencing some very hard grief to navigate. And I've been reminding myself of many of the things that I'm telling you, and being reminded by other folk who are loving on me to do the same. Today, I want to give a very important update around some of the things that are happening in the legal landscape as it relates to Black women entrepreneurs. And I'm calling this episode Standing on Business because I think that these current events really do showcase the difference between doing what's convenient and standing on what your mission and values are, even when it's very, very hard. So many of you may be aware that the Fearless Fund, which was launched in 2019, purposed to give funding, to grant funding, to give access to funding for Black women-owned businesses. Definitely impacting women of color in general, but specifically and unequivocally working to give greater access around funding to Black women-owned businesses, started by two Black women, Arian Simone and Ayanna Parsons. Ayanna is the COO and Arian is the CEO. They were sued. They were sued for the $500 grants they were giving to Black women entrepreneurs, right? They were granting to Black women entrepreneurs. Edward Blum said that it was in violation of the Civil Rights Act. And I want to make sure folks aren't getting comfortable around what's happening, because this has absolutely impacted their business with an intention to impact all race-based initiatives. So the fund was launched in 2019, and since this litigation has started, the Fearless Fund, which had grown to a team of 19 people, 19 employees, has had to scale back to just 6 employees because of litigation. They have seen millions of dollars vanish after all of the partners that they had have now dwindled down to 2. They only have 2 partners left standing beside them after what has happened. They have lost investments and promises of investments to the tune of 8 figures. So that's tens of millions of dollars that they expected to have that is gone. This is a fight. And Arian has said that their back is against the ropes. Their backs are against the ropes. Many of us this year are, myself included, right, running a business with a lean team. Many of you are standing by yourself in your business where you had employees before. Many of you have had to simplify your tech stack and trim the fat and all of these things. And I've seen a lot of these stories going across social media, etc. But this is what standing on business looks like. You will have these ebbs and flows. And for those of us who are squarely standing in a fight to allocate resources to the disenfranchised, this is actually what this fight looks like as well, and will continue to look like, so that we protect the progress that we make. DEI is a term that I often scrunch my nose at when folks, say I'm in that space. And it's no knock to DEI, but in my opinion, DEI is targeted to white folk, right? If we are talking about increasing the diversity, equity, and inclusion of those who are marginalized, that is about changing the minds of somebody who is not doing that, right? It is about changing the practices and the behaviors and the policies and the makeup of organizations that are not doing that. And again, no knock to that, right? But I think that there is a huge difference between that and edifying the folk who are building with integrity from the ground up. Right? Because what is at risk as DEI is being attacked is companies that have made promises around being diverse and around hiring and around getting diverse suppliers. PwC is an example. They made a promise that 40% of their suppliers, meaning the vendors that they do partnership with to get resources, right? They made a promise that 40% would be diverse, and they have struck that promise. They have slashed that promise away. DEI is about and has been about getting folk who are not integrous to be more integrous. And so when we fund our businesses with institutions that are making DEI promises and no knock, there is that risk. There is that external risk that one day they change their minds and all of that funding goes away. And this is what we are seeing in the environment, right? And so as we continue to build, for those of us who are intentionally building from the ground up so that we edify communities, those who are intentionally community-led and not folk who are fronting, where the community has say-so, the community has executive seats, the community is involved in decision-making, the community is reflected in the things that are done. For those who are working to protect food sovereignty and reducing their community's reliance on industrial agriculture. for those who are keeping their stakes and not selling Big Mama's house so that they can show up at meetings and vote and protect their communities from exploitation. I'm not talking about the folks that we trying to change the minds of. I'm talking about those who are standing on business from the ground up. It is so important in this fight and in this plight that we think about the risks associated with building our business models on the promises of those who can very easily change their tune when the DEI fight is being attacked. And again, there is no knock on that. What I am saying is, let's be very strategic about how we build. When I think about the Blaze Virtual Summit, I've been very strategic about sustaining it, not with sponsorship dollars that I know will be fickle, that I know really just want the dollar from the Black community and do not want to edify it, do not want to protect it. I've been very thoughtful around where that revenue comes from instead to pay the speakers, right? How can we circulate the Black dollar within our own economy, right? And fuel and fund the needs of our people. And so that's selling vendor booths, that's our in-person activation, that is the awards that we put on, right? Like really being thoughtful around that. When I think about Blaze and the money that I've attempted to raise and the money that I do raise and crowdsource, etc., I'm very intentional about thinking how I can trade my most profitable skills that don't cost me 40 hours per week at all and continue and completely capitalize my business with such a surplus, right? That I can do this work so that if somebody changes their mind about whether they like Black folks today enough to put skin in the game and allocate their resources to us in perpetuity. That our business's balance sheet is not at risk, right? And so, as we think about standing on business, let's think strategically about what is happening in the current landscape, the ebbs and flows that we will absolutely see along this journey, and be very thoughtful around how we de-risk our business models by capitalizing ourselves, right? Arming ourselves, partnering with folk who are really about it, right? Being in brand aligned, value aligned, receipt aligned collaborations that are more sustainable, right? And less prone to volatile, like political meddling, etc. Please continue to watch this progression, continue to support their campaign and give funds. We definitely have continued to spread awareness, continue to be vigilant around the tactics that are being used, because what is at stake? All race-based initiatives are at stake. All of them. Whether you are a funder, a financier or not. And so think proactively in this fight around how you can insulate yourself from the volatile nature of DEI folk who are promising things not out of the values of their heart, the values of their leaders, but because they don't want to be canceled. Like, just be very careful around that and do what you do, right? If folk are aiding you today, are willing to give you a little something good, cool, right? But let's be very thoughtful around how we build our business models. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but maybe we change our relationship with time, right? Maybe we allow ourselves 5 years to build something that won't topple over when the wind blows versus 5 months, right? Maybe we agree to grow slower because we building something that will transform our communities for real and hedge it from gentrification, and that'll matter for the next 100 years, right? Whatever that looks like for you, I just want to encourage you to stand on business. Stand on business, because this ain't about virality and headlines. Like, this is about reclaiming birthright pleasures of security and safety, self-sufficiency, insulation from oppression, the passing down of knowledge around agriculture and craftsmanship and history and legacy and family names and lineage. This is about education and not indoctrination, giving people the choice to choose what feels good to their bodies and not having to operate out of fear and facades of scarcity. I'm sending so much love and light to you. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in to Blaze Group Radio. Remember, you have not yet met all of the people in your life who are going to love you, so keep going. Download the Blaze Group app for day-to-day support on your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time.